I've been having kind of a hard time with winter, especially within the past month or so. But being out here, look at this, it always helps. It's like I'm surprised every time I'm feeling ungrounded or I'm feeling cooped up. I'm surprised how much it helps to just be in the trees. It's like there's a friendly energy to the trees. They're so welcoming, so loving. Like when you're amongst this many trees, when you're surrounded by them, you can feel that warmth, that friendliness, without a doubt. It's like their energy just covers you in a tight hug, letting you know that you're supported, letting you know that you are loved, letting you know that everything, of course, everything is going to be okay. And when you express gratitude for the trees, I think they can feel it too. You can almost feel like a buzzing, like a buzzing sensation when connecting with the trees. Thank you. And I think the fix is to be amongst the trees more often, to be in nature more often. It's so hard for me to get out here when it's cold. I'm cold right now, but honestly, I don't care because I needed it. Being cooped up and in bed all of last week, being sick. It's hard. It's hard being out of routine. It's hard when obviously things don't go as planned. And any time I need a reminder that everything is going to be okay, even when my mind is trying to tell me that it's not. Being in nature, wherever I am, connecting with Earth and all of its beauty, it just makes me feel a huge sense of relief. And it's not like a mental relief. It's more like it's a bodily sensation. Like, of course, my mind is always going to try to find ways to be really anxious. And my body, when I'm in nature, it's like, no, we're not being anxious today, because there's just this feeling. Look at this, hold on. There's just this feeling that I can't describe, but just watching the water flow reminds me that everything is flowing just like that water, with so much perfection. And it still finds a way to flow. A lot of it has frozen over, and yet it's still flowing. And if all of this freezes over, come spring, come summer, it will continue to flow. and look at the sun through the trees. That's one of my favorite experiences of being a human on Earth, is being able to witness that. Being able to witness all of this. I can't express how grateful I am right now. It's hard to describe why I love nature so much and why I feel such a deep connection to it. Of course, I think there's just the roots of us obviously coming from nature. Like, we're not any separate from this, no matter how much we've built up our man-made lives. We still all came from this, and when we transition, we're gonna go back to this. We're gonna go back to being the rocks and the dirt and the sun and the sky and the stars and the water. But yeah, I've been having a hard time with winter, like I always do, especially when it starts to get to like the tail end of winter, and I know we're only in January and we still have a few months to go. But I need to remind myself to just get outside. If I have the capacity to put on some warm clothes and go for a 10-minute drive, it will do wonders for my mental health, for my spiritual health. Maybe the world just needs more. Maybe the world needs more people connecting with nature. Oh my gosh. Okay, look at this. I also love to find like little, almost like portals. Like, this is like a portal to almost like a different realm when I'm in nature. And there's so many different portals through trees and through rocks. Wow. This is incredible. I'll probably sit here for a few minutes and just watch this. I don't really like the saying or the belief or the life principle that everything is always going to work out, because I feel like it bypasses a lot of the realities of our human experience. It makes it seem like nothing that is challenging will ever happen, or nothing that is difficult will ever happen. And so I don't believe that everything is always going to work out the way that we want it to. But especially when I'm connecting to the natural elements and just seeing how they flow and how there's this underlying vibration of everything, this underlying force of everything. It reminds me that even when things don't work out the way that we want them to, or the way that we wish that they would, there's still love in there. There's still divinity in there. And it's a really hard concept to explain, and I think it's more of a feeling, and there aren't really words to explain this feeling. But I think even our biggest challenges, I know for me in my life, in my past, and now, and in my future, everything that I didn't want to happen, I can see why, in a sense, it did happen. It doesn't mean that I'm okay with it happening, but it happened, and we can't change that. And a lot of our suffering comes from wanting to change that, wanting things to be different. And I think that the key is holding those two opposing things. Like, yes, this absolutely sucks. This shouldn't happen. And this happened. And this is the way it is. And I can see at least partially why this had to happen so that this could happen. And so it led to this sort of miraculous thing that I didn't even know was possible at the time. And now looking back in hindsight, I can see that. And I think if we can kind of relate that to a few of our past life experiences, it makes it just slightly easier to release our need for control and to release our grasping of trying to hold on to the present moment, even though we know that it's inevitable that it will change. I have full body chills right now because I can still see the water that I was looking at down here. If you're not getting the hint, go to nature. And if you don't have nature like this where you live, human planted trees are still nature. Grass is still nature. Rocks are still nature. Connecting with the sun or clouds, if it's cloudy where you are, that's still nature. And when you sit with that, even if it's one tree, even if it's one little small patch of grass in a park surrounded by concrete buildings, you can see that there is an inevitable change constantly to everything. But that change doesn't have to mean that it's bad. Change opens the way for miracles that we usually don't even have the ability or the capacity in our human minds to comprehend before they happen, or sometimes even while they're happening. In my life, personally, I've been going through some things. My family's been going through some things. I know that a lot of people are worried about the state of our country and the state of, honestly, our world as a whole. And I mean, it's been hard, right? It's been hard to have to deal with so many uncertainties, so many moving parts, so many things that just don't really make sense. Again, going back to that, like, why do these things have to happen? And really holding space for that, those uncomfortable emotions and those, I don't like using the word negative, but just to help you understand better, like those negative things that are happening to us. And I know I'm not alone in this. I think that most people have something challenging that they're going through. And if you don't, then you are blessed. You are so blessed. And how do we move through those things without getting so caught up in the emotions that they bring? Well, I think that the emotions that come up from whatever those challenging things are, I think that those are teachers, and those are very powerful ways for us to understand what is going on, what is happening. And again, it goes back to holding space for the hard emotions, the sadness, the grief, the anger, the confusion. And also, at the same time, this isn't bypassing those emotions. This is acknowledging all that exists, all that is present right now. Also finding the things that we have to be grateful for. And this is so especially important in the midst of hardship. Gratitude is great if your life is going perfectly, but what about when you're having a harder time finding things to be grateful for, when you're having a harder time accepting the reality of what is? That's where I think gratitude comes in. And that's why nature helps me a lot, because there is so much for me to be grateful for when I'm out here. But connecting with that gratitude on a daily basis is life-changing. It reminds you that it's not all bad. It's not all negative. Even if it feels like 99% of it is bad right now, there's still got to be 1% that's good. And I can almost guarantee you that when you find that 1% and when you really kind of hold it, like think about it, let the emotions at that 1% of gratitude that you can find, let those emotions come up, and then focus on those emotions, I'm almost certain that it might level out a little bit. Maybe not all the way at 50-50, maybe like 60-40. And oftentimes, for me personally, that's enough to at least keep pushing on. To take it step by step, and if I can find gratitude in this moment, I know that there's always going to be something to be grateful for. And I think that we need to do more of that. Of course, like I said, we have to acknowledge our reality, and we can't bypass the hard things we're going through. But along with those hard things that we're going through, there's absolutely something to be grateful for. Sometimes we just have to look a little bit harder for that thing. And I just want you to know that you wouldn't be going through this if you if you didn't have the ability or the capacity or the strength or the courage to get through it. And so whatever you're going through right now, just get through it. Just get through it. You don't need to worry about anything else, because everything is always changing, and it might not be okay right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever. It absolutely won't be that way forever. That is life. And if you ever forget that, connect to nature to be a first-hand witness to the constant impermanence of our human experience.